My name is Erling Haberget. I'm coming from a company called BankID Norway. I'm the managing director. I think we start with a video, just to give you a flavor of BankID. Good. This product actually has a history back to the late 90s. The banks usually issued a physical ID card in Norway to use together with a check, and later on they put it back on the debit card. So in the late 90s, we asked, how can we drive the bank's position, the trust position in the physical market to the electronic market space? So that is where the journey started. The stakeholders here is, of course, the banks. The banks issue the certificates both to the companies and to the consumers. And they are actually a scheme. And this is all based on mutual trust among the banks. So the whole scheme is governed by Finance Norway, that is the old bankers association. So they are the top of the hierarchy, while the banks, they have their own CA, certificate authority. We do have two different solutions. One roaming solution, in a way it's a cloud solution, and we also have a SIM solution. The roaming solution, we have stored the keys and certificates in the digital vault centrally, and the consumers, they retrieve the clients and the keys to whatever device. Because we have lately introduced a pure web-based service, so this solution will work on any device with a web browser. In addition, from about 8 years ago, there was a cooperation with the mobile operators. So they have a solution with a SIM where they store the keys on the SIM card. But these two solutions, they work together. So what we agreed with the mobile operators is to combine the PKI of the banks with the PKI of the mobile operators. So now we also changed the whole business model. So the relaying parties, they can have both solutions, and the consumers, it's up to the consumers to choose what client. In Norway, we have a population of about 5 million people. 96% of the population have access to internet at home. 88% of the adult population use internet banking services. And 80% of the population has a smartphone. 70% of the population has tablets. And the best of all, 80% of the adult population have a BankID. We process about 365 million BankID transactions annually. That gives about 1 million times a day. All banks in Norway are using BankID as a tool for authentication, accessing the internet banking services. And we see an increasing, even though we see an increasing competition with green services, they still use BankID as the standard authentication. And an increasing number of banks are also using BankID for the electronic signing, loan applications, and other applications in the bank. Since 2012, we have delivered certificate services to the public service in Norway. So the Norwegian government offer close to, I think it's 700 different electronic public services through an ID portal. And BankID is one of the selections because we have 3 to 4 different level 4 IDs, and we have 1 level 3 EID. And in this portal, we have gained about 50% of the transactions. And my company, BankID Norway, we now have a goal to develop the private sector, also banking and finance. This is what we call a mature digital market, but with very immature digital buyers. The banks started the whole cooperation with mutual recognition. Without this mutual recognition, there hasn't been any scheme. So if they don't recognize each other, it's just closed solutions. That's why we can bring it out to the public services and the private sector outside the bank. In addition to having a PKI, we also have a fraud detection system. So the banks actually share the resources from this fraud system. So if there's a fraud with one bank ID used in whatever bank, the alarm will also be sent to all the other banks. So it's shared resources, and if a credential is compromised, it will be disabled because we run a cloud service. And we also have established a common finance cert. So this body, together with the system of BankID, will help the banks to fight fraud. That was 7 minutes. Good.